Hello and welcome to Hot Takes Cold Proofs. I'm Nino.
And I'm Mattia.
And we have returning for round two. So thank you so much for coming back, Nasim and Julie. And last time we were talking about AI and ethics broadly, but we're going to sort of focus more on bias today. So
we're going to start with, what is bias? How do you define it, or how is it defined?
Yeah, as I talked last session, in AI we are trying to mimic human brain. And as humans, to some extent, we have some biases in our minds. You know, we are sometimes trying to judge a book by its cover. And it's the way we are raising our children, I think. So we are raising in our culture based on our own, policies, everything that you're interested, not interested. Even I'm thinking we are raised now based on a taste. If they like your food, not like your food. So I think it's a biased way of raising a child, but we don't have other options. It's the same thing. It could happen by the AI. When you are training an AI system, when you are creating a model, or when you are interpreting the AI's results, they could be in the same way. So you are training a model, same as your child, biased on your own opinions, based on your own insights. So this is definition of the bias, and it's somehow inevitable. You can't go without it, but there's some ways maybe to mitigate it.
Interesting.
yeah, that's a bit. The idea of you can't get rid of it.
No, because as humans you can't get rid of it. Yeah, we're mimicking our brain with AI. So to some extent we have a high bias people, low bias people, but I don't know. Do we have any unbiased people? I'm not sure.
Yes, I guess not being biased is sort of being biased as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Take that out.
Push yourself, exactly. Pushing yourself to be not biased, backfiring you.
So we can eliminate bias, but it's also become quite of a catchphrase as well. You hear it a lot. In terms of AI models, and because now there's people around the world training them with different ideologies, geographical background and everything, what do you think that would bring to the whole spectrum of AI in terms of things that might concern you or things that you're happy about?
Well, I agree with Nasim in that there is no system that's fully biased or completely non-biased. So it's about being aware that bias is present, and then how do we design systems so that we can mitigate it as much as possible. So if we're designing a system, it's either going to favor the traits in the majority of the training data, for example. So if we were doing a speech recognition systems, it could be based on accent, or it could be based on the most prevalent language used in the system. So the system would naturally be trained with more of that language, and then we would say the system could be biased towards that language. So we would look at how could we mitigate that. So we would look at in making the training data more diverse. So it's always going to be there from like the original data set we have, and then it's about how can we mitigate it as much as possible. So we would go down either bring in many more examples of, say, low resource languages, if that was the use case, or we could even we could actually come up with like an algorithm that could help the model to be aware that it has the bias, and then it would automatically move away from the default, or not default, it would move away from the features that it sees the most. So there's lots of different, and I'm sure we'll talk through more of them. So it's always there, but we have AI systems, going back to your question, that are looking to support cultures, dialects, to make sure that we retain a record of those. So for example, across Europe, we have, different populations, different languages, different cultures, different dialects. If we train an AI system on English, French, Spanish, and German, and then what dialect within those languages are we going to choose? So if we only train with kind of a select number of languages, then all of those dialects and cultures and words and phrases, idioms may not be present in the system. So we could actually try to create systems that are directly looking to support those particular niche areas, I guess. So that will be a positive aspect of bias.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's with bias, sorry, I probably should have started with this question before you went into it, but how do you detect it? It seems a bit difficult, no? Because if you're brought up in a certain culture or an area, it's hard for you as a if it's a human behind it trying to detect.
In AI, we have two phases of AI. First phase is training, and second phase is testing a model. So by training, we prone to bias. In test data set, or when we are testing our model, we notice that it is biased because it used to understand the patterns based on the training data set, based on what we have, we give it to that. And now when a new data set is there, when a new culture is there, a new language is there, sorry, the response are completely different. So we understand that it has some technical points. I don't want to get into to the details, but based on the results coming from the AI model in the test phase, we understand that system is biased to something because we can't generalize the system. Now the effort is making some AI models that they are generalizable. They are not biased to different things, but they are not biased to local information. As I told, same as raising up a child. We are trying to, introduce them to different cultures, being in a diverse community, so they understand more, they grow up better, they can generalize themselves, their self-esteem. It's the same thing with the AI. When you're testing the model and the data set is a new data set, completely new to the AI model, we understand from the results, it's not true, something is happening. So we know that there is a bias here. We need to go back and recheck everything.
It's interesting the one kind of think about broadening the language, the models up to more things and trying to reduce the bias, but at the same time, it's got to make a decision one way or another, and it's going to have that's the definition of bias, isn't it? I guess it has to make that decision. But I love that metaphor of kind of bringing up a child as being the same as training a model. That's the right place. I'm nicking that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
As Jim said, it is true because AI aim is just mimicking human, brain, and we have different sorts of brain. Even we have some sort of models we call reinforcement learning. It is again completely the same way of we are raising our children. It's not based on some rules. It gives the agent, we call it agent. The child here is agent. We give agent some punishment or rewards. So we let them to explore everything. And based on the exploration, we can give them reward or punishment. Same as the thing that when child says something, we are smiling, they start to repeat it again and again. And then we are just looking them, sadly, they just, it's the same thing we are training the AI model there, because sometimes there are so much rules out there, you can't teach them. In the, self-driver cars, or playing chess with AI, there's so much different situation. You can't train a model based on every possible situation because anything could happen. When you are driving, anything could happen. As a human, we are just thinking what's going on right now. We need to decide right now. It is the reinforcement learning model. Again, it's completely based on how we raise a child. Yeah.
The next question is, how do we punish ChatGPT?
Yeah, but we are giving less reward.
I feel less comfortable about punishing a
No, it is based on are we in the training phase or testing phase? With ChatGPT, as a as a user, you are always in the test position, test phase. I'm talking about training phase. You can fine tune it, the ChatGPT in the way you are like it. Yeah.
So with this reward system, do you think that it has also pushed these AI models to become a bit more agreeable with us, or no? Like, do you feel like they tend to please more? Like with ChatGPT, whenever it gives me an answer that I'm not looking for and I let it know, it apologizes, oh, you're absolutely right, which I might be absolutely wrong. But do you think that is what is happening, or is that a different sort of aspect of AI?
I guess ChatGPT, large language models, are a specific type of AI, generative AI. And there's lots of different types, like classifiers, predictors, detectors. But yeah, I would say that different language models are trained to be compliant in how they engage with people. And these will be kind of a set of rules that will be applied to the language model afterwards to say, this is the context of how you should interact with users. So it is to be very pleasant, very compliant, agreeable. But they are designed that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily fit into the reward system. That's
No, because as Nasim said, you're testing the model. And it's interacting with you. And there is some kind of memory and how much you can remember how to interact with you. But there's a limit to that memory as well. And ultimately, it's going to start forgetting conversations you had, say, a number of days ago or a number of weeks ago. So it has this kind of window of memory as to how it should interact with you. And then it depends on how you write your prompts as well. So you could write your prompts to be very polite, and then it will respond in a similar way. You could ask it to act as a particular type of persona, and then it will respond in that way. So it's naturally trained to be compliant, I would say. But also how you interact with it will also impact on how it responds.
Thank you. Shall I continue?
Yeah.
So have you come across any type of bias in your own work that you didn't necessarily expect it to resurface at that point?
In healthcare especially, we rely too much on people. We rely too much on professionals because we need to go a little bit into the details. We have supervised learning in AI. It means that there is always a teacher. There is always a parent teaching things to the model. Another one is unsupervised. We let them just understand the trends or patterns. There is no teacher there. And the last type is reinforcement learning, punish and reward. So in healthcare, we are mostly unsupervised data. Supervised data means there is always a clinician there, and they labeled or annotate the data to us. So they, locate if there is any lesion or something is wrong, they label that for us. So we rely too much on the opinion of the clinicians. And at the end of the day, when we are testing our data sets, and the accuracy is different, or the clinician at the end who interprets the results are different, they understand that there is a bias going there. And sometimes we relied just on some vendors. For images, we are relying on maybe GE, just Philips, or just Siemens. So as Julie said, we need to have a diverse, representative data set in our training, so we can answer all of these questions, and also a diverse set of annotators, a diverse set of clinicians there with different mindset to label the data set as we are teachers. So it's a good idea if we have different teachers in a school. So a teacher for mathematics, a teacher for French, a teacher for geography. They give us different information and different, and introduce us different personalities. It's the same thing. If we have a set of clinicians, rather relying on one or two, it helps us to have a better results rather than bias. For me, it happened when we worked with the specific hospital and specific clinicians. So we need to go back and train our model, add more representative and diverse data from other hospitals, from different vendors, and train the model again. And again, fine-tune our parameters, then look at the results. It is one way to look at how to mitigate the bias. We need to mitigate the training data set. Another is when the model is biased. Model, as Julie said, model used to look at specific features. We train the model, we raise the child, it's sensitive to specific things, ignore the others. So we need to mitigate that model as well. And finally is interpretation, the results. Somebody fair could be there, interpret the results for us, not ourselves, because again, we are biased. We want to see the results in the way we like it.
And that's right.
It's the way I am trying to mitigate the bias.
No, that's quite honorable.
It's interesting how it must be when you're working in this area, you're becoming more aware of your own biases, I guess, and you're trying to improve yourselves as just, not just in terms of just research.
Yeah, exactly.
You suddenly become aware of, oh my God, in this way. It's, in terms of, so when you give more data sets and more people overlooking and so on, do you find does the model sort of at one point suddenly switch to being not unbiased, but there seems to be a real shift, or is it very much incrementally slice by slice? Or
I guess it would be a trade-off between overall model performance and how representative you want the model to be. So if it's a very focused task where the data will be less diverse, then you could go for, let's try and get the model to be as accurate as possible. But if you want the model to be more representative, then there would have to be a trade-off. So you would say, we are aware that this model is not going to be as accurate, but across all the different features, across all the different types of data, it's going to be, you would focus more like equal error, so that the error rate will be equal across the different categories, rather than looking at core accuracy. Yeah.
Going back to the healthcare example, and you said that AI is trying to mimic our human behavior and eradicate bias as much as possible. So there are some studies and some claims that our healthcare system is inherently biased towards a minority of people. And there are statements from people who have visited hospitals for a variety of reasons. Let's focus on childbirth and the maternity wards. That if they're from a specific ethnic background or a specific minority group, their, let's say, level of pain or the problems they are facing are dealt with differently, with a different level of, I'm trying to be very careful, sensitivity, as if they were from another ethnic group. Do you feel like AI is would be able to sort of take away a bit of this bias if it exists?
Yeah,
and how do you think?
know, it is true because even between male and female,
Yes.
based on the studies, they said that doctors thinking that females are exaggerating their pain, so they don't, think about them very carefully, rather than men. When from males say that I have a pain somewhere, they take it in consider. But for female, they think that maybe it's just exaggeration, or they seek attention. So this is a mindset. Yeah, it is somehow true. AI can, why we are using AI in the first place, it is because one reason is we have inter-observer and intra-observer errors. Intra-observer is when you are, today I'm in a good mood, so I have very clear decisions. My decisions are very, true, insightful, but sometimes I'm too tired or I'm in a low mood, so I can make it's the same situation, same problem, but the output could be different, because I'm in a low mood. I don't want to think more. I just want to, have some insight there and get rid of it. They call it intra-observer. The error, I am doing it by myself with one person. Even it happens with one clinician in different situations, when they're happy, when they're sad, when they have, when they started the low mood. And we have inter-observer between two clinicians, because they are thinking to the issue in a different way as humans. They have, based on their experience, based on their knowledge, based on their ethnicity. So they may have different understanding of the same situation. AI tries to fill this gap. So we are training the model to give the same answers as always. So if we train it on the different ethnicities, with the, so much diversity groups there, male and female, and also, again, not biased to a specific group of them, we can answer this question there. Because just imagine, we, instead of relying on one or two clinicians, you have a commission there. Maybe there is a group of clinicians, 20 of them, 15 of them, they are making the decision. So you are lowering the chance of being biased to specific genders, specific ethnicities.
That is so reassuring to hear.
Yes.
Yes. Shall I continue?
Yeah, go on.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that these AI models were birthed by a small group at some point in Silicon Valley when they first started out, and then they became bigger. And obviously at that time there were more biases than there are now. Can you name a few biases that you feel like have been already mitigated that existed in the first models?
Well, I don't think the model started in Silicon Valley.
Okay, thank you. That's the first.
I'd say AI goes back over 80 years. So Second World War, that's where we would say AI started.
Okay.
And I don't think it was termed as a word definition until the 50s or something. But yeah, so it has a long history, and it has changed a lot over, and the different types of AI have changed a lot. So if we're talking about generative AI, then yes, this will be much more recent, say within the last, the smaller language models would have been about 7-8 years ago, maybe 10 now. And the large language models that we're all very aware of, like ChatGPTs, Claude, these would have been 3-4 years. So what was your question?
I mean, were there biases in the beginning of them becoming general and accessible to the public that you feel like have been mitigated now?
If we're talking about the language models,
Yes.
then yes, there definitely were and are. In how we could actually use them and interact with them as end users. So when they train a language model, it's trained on, say, an internet scale of data, huge amount of data. And there would be, within that data, say it was they scraped the internet. You can imagine how much of that data would be factually accurate, how much of it would be opinion-based, how much of it would be mis or disinformation. And the AI model is given all of that. So when we're interacting with it as users, if we interact with an early stage, and we call these foundation models, so we interact with one of those models without any guardrails, then yes, there could be a problem there in terms of the responses that we're getting from the model. And we've seen different models over the last couple of years that have had controversies, like the Grok model. And so what these AI companies do is they create a set of guardrails to limit, in some ways, how we can extract information or how we can get the model to say something that we would like it to say. But that is all a set of rules that will be added afterwards. And those rules would have to be tested regularly and updated even more regularly. And I would say there are jobs in how they can push language models to reveal information that they shouldn't, about, I don't know what information, say weapons of mass destruction, providing information on how to build those. That's not something that we should be able to access by chatting to a language model like ChatGPT. But the information is there because it was on the internet. So to stop people being able to get access to that sort of information, they would have to create a set of rules. So those rules are ever changing. And for every new iteration of the language model, I would say they would have to review those and make sure that those are being kept up to date as well. So it's the foundation model is fantastic, but it's almost too powerful, would that be a word? In how companies allow people to access those models.
I understand. Thank you.
Like the parent going, no. That's almost like the other way around, actually. It's kind of weird. The kids never know. You can't access. No, I'm not telling you that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the kids go and do it behind their parents' back anyway. So
Well, that's it. People try to manipulate to see if I ask a direct question, it's not going to give me the answer. So then it almost becomes like a challenge, how we can get the information by tricking the language model into revealing it.
And that works. No?
Well,
Yeah.
it has worked.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's always it's like a moving target, as in what those rules should be, and making sure that those rules don't become so big that they limit the operability of the actual foundation model itself. But yeah, it's always moving.
So there is it correct to say there are a set of principles, like ethical principles behind it, that you try to abide by those? And if yes, who defines that boundary? I know you sit on the ethics panel of the university as well. I think we had a discussion with Julie a while back about how some companies, AI companies, try to eradicate pornography or things related to that on these language models. And they employ people who are from more disadvantaged backgrounds in remote areas and villages, and they ask them to sit through some quite disturbing images and videos and then detect which ones are, not suitable or suitable. And it sort of doesn't, it's like you're trying to achieve an ethical outcome from a not so ethical process. So how do you see that? Is that the sort of mainstream way of?
Yeah, but all the companies we talked last session, they need to obey the rules. We have GDPR. They need to be in the GDPR. Yep, there should be some leakages here and there, but they have to obey the rules here. Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes it is like this in trying to have ethics in an unethical way. But
what can we do?
Yeah, what can we do?
And ethics differ. The ethic, so that's why they call it responsible AI rather than ethical AI. Because a company like, say, Microsoft, they would trade in, I don't know, over 100 countries around the world, I would imagine. And ethics change and values change across different regions, different countries. So it's like with GDPR, it works here, works in Europe, but there's a limit to other countries that don't have GDPR. So they have to work out how they can operate responsibly based on different cultures, different nations. So it will be a challenge, I imagine.
Are there differences in how a mother would, so if you gave her a prompt, let's say we're in Canada, and then let's say you move to Mongolia, would, and get the same prompt, would, through it knowing where you were, would it potentially give you a different response? Is that something?
It's again, if they are trained on same thing or not, and if it fine-tune it afterwards or not, it is completely different. If they are trained on the same thing and you are in the face test, you are just talking to it, it will give you the same thing. But if you are trained on a different data set, and also we have a other phase here, in the large language models, we are fine-tuning them. We are not starting from the scratch by training them. So if they fine-tune it based on their culture, based on the situation there, based on their values in that country, it would give you the different answers.
Which is again like bring up kids and
exactly.
Same thing,
Grow, raise a child in the UK and take them back to other country. You need to fine-tune that child based on the cultures, based on the laws in that country.
Because I suppose different language models might be blocked in certain countries if they had access to it and freely available information that specific nations didn't want accessible. But yeah, it's an interesting question because I don't know if you're accessing something like ChatGPT, is it bound to the laws within the country you're accessing it from? Or is it bound to, is it a general safeguarding policy, or is there specific safeguarding policies?
I think they will ban it if they don't work. I don't know, or maybe just they manipulate it somehow.
Yeah, I suppose
safeguarding, as you said.
Yeah, and these like a generative AI that we're talking about will be accessible to end users, like people,
like us,
regular public. But then there will be other types of AI developed, like for healthcare, which wouldn't be accessible by the general public. So it will be more limited. They would have more control over how it could be accessed and and what type of information it would be able to share.
And they're trained differently as well.
Yeah.
Okay, bias. Thank you. Well, in order to wrap up a bit, what gives you, I know this is a very broad question, but what's giving you hope in terms of all of this?
That's our bias. No.
We're going towards a more positive direction in terms if that is happening. If not,
Yeah,
please let us know. If we're
it is
being
happening,
doomed.
I think, with explainable AI, with responsible AI, it is happening. Because we started to look at the AI as a black box. We don't know what's going inside. We gave some information and then look at the outputs. But now with explainable AI, we started to look what is interesting for the model. What model looks, to decide what features model are looking for. So yeah, with explainable AI, there is some hope. We are trying to have more transparency based on the outputs there, especially in healthcare, where it's not clear to the clinician what is going on in the model. They couldn't rely on you. They couldn't trust the model. They want everything to be clear for them. So yeah, it's explainable AI and, as Julie said, responsible AI. They're really important, and we are going to that direction, the positive direction.
So is it telling the child to explain your answer?
Exactly. How did you, what do you think about this? Exactly. When they are giving you an answer, you ask them, what's your mindset? What are you thinking? It's happening, we are working on some question with my son yesterday. So he said that this is A. I told him, okay, but how do you, resolve this? How do you think about this? I want to understand, what is the features in his mind going on to, and finally resulted in that specific answer. Yeah, exactly.
That seems positive.
It
At
does.
least we know where it's guaranteed.
Julie, I wanted to ask, sorry, this would be the last question, about your research center, CAINT. What are you doing there right now in terms of the discussions we've had, and how's it going?
Yeah, I was really happy to set up CAINT at the university. So throughout my career, similar to Nasim, it's always been very technical in terms of developing AI algorithms. And I was very lucky over a good period of my career that I had active collaborations with industry and developing AI for different real world problems like financial services. Is that a problem? Financial services, insurance. So it was very applied. And what I learned from that is that it wasn't just about the algorithm. It's all about the data, and it's about who's ultimately going to be that end user. So how, if I'm involved in developing an AI model, how is it making a decision, and how is that decision ultimately used? That became very clear to me over that period. So I kind of took my head out of the lab and actually thought about, well, what's the impact of AI? So with CAINT, the focus has been on, yes, we have that core technical drive towards developing algorithms, but we want to develop those algorithms in collaboration with other disciplines. So we have very excellent colleagues from social sciences, psychology, law, business, engineering. I'm probably forgetting something specific, but yeah, so that we're actually trying to create solutions that will be broader, that are not just thinking about accuracy or can we get this can we produce a result that's benchmarkable and we can write on nice paper, which is great. But we're looking at the broader problem of how AI could solve this, but also what's the impact of that solution. So that's the focus of the centre, is to bring together, as I said, very excellent colleagues from across the university and beyond, and then to support each other to develop AI solutions that are more responsible. But yeah, it's more diverse. A diverse research team is always better than 5 Julies and 5 Nasims.
Quite.
That's bonus.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wonderful. Thank you very much. It was a joy having you on again. And we're done.